It's a Friday PFT OT, and it's just me. Sim's off on Fridays as per usual. I want to get through some of the things that Big Cat and I did not get through today during the 2 hours that we had together on PFT Live. And I want to start with something we discussed a little bit at the top of the first hour of the radio TV simulcast, and that is the fact that last night in the Hall of Fame game, the pass interference replay review procedure made its debut. A flag was thrown after there was a pass interference call. It resulted in a 40-yard chunk of field position changing hands, and the red flag came out. Al Riveron, who was on site in Canton, Ohio, looked at the ruling, looked at the video, and decided that there was not clear and obvious evidence that the defensive player had not significantly hindered the receiver. And typically when the flag is thrown, it's going to be difficult, if not impossible, to come to a conclusion that there's clear and obvious evidence that there wasn't interference. It doesn't take much contact to defer to the ruling that the contact significantly hindered. You need clear and obvious evidence that it didn't significantly hinder. It's got to be clear and it's got to be obvious. And unless there's just no contact whatsoever, you're rarely going to see the flag picked up. But what is going to be more challenging is the flip side of the coin, and we didn't see this happen yet. When there isn't pass interference called in real time by the officials on the field, but the red flag is thrown and a challenge is made to prove that there was actual pass interference. That's when we have the potential for Al Riveron to view these plays frame by frame and maybe supply his own judgment for the judgment that was exercised by the officials on the field, because you see a little bit of a tug, you see a little bit of a grab. Did it significantly hinder the receiver? And that's the standard. Clear and obvious evidence that there was significant hindrance of the receiver. And we've seen a couple of examples that were shared by Al Riveron to employees of the NFL earlier this year in their annual media seminar. I became concerned that this thing that was set up as a break glass in event of emergency option to rectify what happened in the Rams-Saints NFC Championship game, this is going to be used as a way to second-guess judgment calls being made by officials. And there's a fundamental difference between using replay review to determine whether or not a receiver got 2 feet in bounds before or while catching a pass, or whether or not the ball came out before a player's knee hits the ground. Those are objective. Pass interference, subjective. And my concern is that subjectivity is going to be invaded by Al Riveron with a standard lower than what the NFL intends. So hopefully we'll see some of those plays throughout the preseason so we can get an idea of whether or not Al Riveron is handling this properly. Mike Zimmer, the coach of the Vikings, made it clear on Thursday when talking to reporters, he is going to be throwing that red flag early and often throughout the preseason so he can find out what the contours are. I think it's important for the coaches to use the red flag so they know what is and isn't pass interference, what will and won't be overturned. And I think the league can better hone its procedures through repetition. I mentioned during PFT Live on the radio side today that I wouldn't be surprised if the league office doesn't tell the coaches out there, go ahead and throw that flag. We want to see the ruling, the procedure, the replay review process be tested in the preseason as much as it possibly can be so we know what is or isn't going to work when the regular season rolls around. Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys continue to be dug in when it comes to the holdout of running back Ezekiel Elliott. And now that this holdout is kind of maturing, because last week it was more of that surprise phase. I don't think the Cowboys really anticipated that Elliott would hold out. Now that it's baked into place, I don't know where you find a middle ground here. Now, Jerry Jones was asked on Thursday about how this is going to play out, and he said, when have I not been able to get a deal done? Well, in 1993, you didn't get a deal done with Emmitt Smith until 2 games into the regular season. So it may take a while to get a deal done, and I have a feeling it is going to take a while. To the extent the Cowboys are trying to convince Elliott and others that they shouldn't want top dollar, that they should treat playing for the Cowboys as having some sort of inherent value, it may make it difficult to get Elliott to the point where he's happy. He's going to want to take the Todd Gurley deal and beat it. That's simple, that clear. Will the Cowboys come to that point? As of right now, it sure sounds like they don't want to. And if they're willing to make a significant move, the sooner you do it, the sooner you get your guy ready for week 1. The idea of having him miss a couple of games. Look, you miss a couple of early games, you lose a couple of early games, that could be the difference between going to the playoffs and not going to the playoffs. So the difference between the 1 seed and the 5 seed. So these are important considerations for the Cowboys. If you want to get a deal done, fine, get it done. The sooner you get it done, the better. Jameis Winston, some think he may be done as the starting quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after this season. He's in year 5 of his career, the final year of his rookie contract. And it was the rookie contract he signed in 2015 that had a clause in there that prevented him from playing baseball. And it actually gave the Buccaneers the power to go to court to get an order stopping him from playing baseball, either on a part-time basis or even from keeping him from quitting football and embracing baseball. That he couldn't even have done that based upon the way the contract was written. Now, that issue has been addressed, and teams can't keep a guy from quitting football and embracing baseball. That may not be a contractual issue, though, for Jameis Winston. After this season, there may not be someone out there offering him a significant amount of money to be a team's starting quarterback. And Jameis Winston talking recently to Peter King, saying that he still wants to play baseball. It's still a dream for him. He would look forward to doing it. When I heard that quote, I look forward to doing it, or I look forward to the opportunity, it implies that something is percolating out there. And he's still only 25 years old. Tim Tebow launched into his baseball fantasy camp career, which is still, I don't know that thriving is the right word. The Mets have found a way to prop him up all the way to AAA because he's good for business. Jameis Winston wouldn't have that same draw. But the question is, what kind of a pitcher could Jameis Winston be at the major league level? If this football thing doesn't work out, and it could be that this is the year he decides it's not working out, baseball is still there. And maybe Jameis Winston decides once he gets through this season, if the Buccaneers don't offer him a contract or they don't offer him enough, and other teams out there aren't willing to pay him $23, $25, $27 million a year, and at this point, who would? Maybe he decides to give another sport a try. It's something to keep an eye on. You know, it's a dream, yes, but he may be moving toward a point in his life where he can try to make it a reality. Kyler Murray gave up on the dream of playing baseball to pursue the dream of playing football. He's still a guy who could decide at some point to go play baseball. For now, though, he's all in on football. And he was talking recently to reporters about whether or not he feels pressure as he embarks on his first NFL season. He said, I don't feel pressure. And it's easy for him to say, I don't feel pressure, because he's never really had much pressure. He's been so good. His teams have been so good that the pressure hasn't been there. The adversity hasn't been there. It's a point that Peter King made before the draft. And a lot of people thought that it was a bad take. I think it's a very salient point. The idea that Kyler Murray's had it so easy as a football player. If the Cardinals are 3-6 through 9 games, will he still enjoy it as much as he always has? It's very easy to enjoy something that you're great at. All of a sudden, you're not great at it anymore. Do you enjoy it as much? Do you still have the passion for it? Or does your eye start to wander to something other than football? And when you possess a high degree of God-given skills in 2 different sports, and baseball is still there, baseball is not going anywhere, and I'm sure the Oakland A's, and I don't know how long they're going to hold his rights. They drafted him in the top 10 last year in the Major League Baseball draft, but a baseball team surely would love to get a chance to absorb Kyler Murray. And again, this is all, look, I hope he's great, and I hope he plays in the NFL for 15 years, and I hope he's the next Patrick Mahomes, Baker Mayfield. But he's in for potentially, and I hope I'm wrong about this. I hope the Cardinals come out of the gates and go 7-1 the first half of the season. But I think it's safe to assume it's not going to be as easy for Kyler Murray as it's been at every other level of football. How will he react? He's not feeling the pressure now because maybe he doesn't know that he should be feeling the pressure. Once they start playing the games that count, once he gets a feel for what an NFL defense looks like, runs like, and hits like, he may have a different feeling. Once he sees some of those scoreboards at the end of the fourth quarter and the Cardinals have lost by 10 or more points on a consistent basis, he may have a different feeling about pressure. And there's a chance at some point he'll have a different feeling about football. My personal hope is that doesn't happen. I want him to be great. I want every NFL team to have a great quarterback. I want all the teams to be as competitive as they can be. The sport is better if every team has a truly great quarterback. The Atlanta Falcons have a great quarterback, and they also have a great receiver in Julio Jones. Thomas Dimitroff, the team's GM, recently told NFL media that the Falcons are prepared to make Julio Jones the highest-paid receiver in the NFL. Now, they know what the bar currently is. 5 years, $96.25 million, works out to about 19, I don't know. I haven't done the math. It's 96.25 divided by 5. That's the high watermark for NFL receivers. The Falcons plan to beat that with Julio Jones. And remember, there's this persistent belief that the Falcons and Julio Jones already have a deal in place, that it's just a matter of time before they announce it. And it's very easy for Thomas Dimitroff to say, we're prepared to make Julio Jones the highest paid receiver in football if he already knows exactly how much he's paying him. The fact that they signed Grady Jarrett to a long-term deal, the fact that they signed Deion Jones to a long-term deal, people in the NFL look at that and say they wouldn't do that if they didn't already know exactly what they were paying Julio Jones. They know, many believe, what they're going to be paying Julio Jones. There's a belief that the deal was already done. They were waiting until after the one-year anniversary of the last deal. That was on July 26th. We're now a week removed from that. And I've been throwing out this concept for a while now that the Falcons already have a deal with Julio Jones, and I've gotten no pushback from anyone, from Jones camp, from the Falcons, from anyone, that I'm barking up the wrong tree here. So I have a feeling that Thomas Dimitroff's confidence about making Julio Jones the highest paid player at his position in the NFL, that comes from a knowledge that they already know what they're going to pay him, and they know that it's more than what Michael Thomas got from the New Orleans Saints. That is it for this Friday edition of PFT OT. We'll be back with PFT Live on Monday. A little bit of a screwy schedule next week. Sims is going to be on the road at a couple of training camps. We're going to have Shereen Williams on Wednesday, Big Cat on Thursday. So Sims, after only 1 week back, he's going to go 3 days next week. We'll make it up at some point. He'll do a 5-day week against his wishes at some point to make up for that day. But we appreciate you being with us all week long with PFT Live, PFT OT, and all weekend long we will be posting content as things continue to happen and we make the push toward the first week of the 2019 preseason. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday.